Hello, hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily, Season 3, Episode 1, for January 1st, 2024. I almost said 2023, because that's what's in the show notes. Today we're going to be talking about an unsealed dive suit, fuzzy dice in Illinois, Steam's Best 2023. Reacher's Rules, CES 2024 Preview, Public Domain Game Jam, Zai Technique, The Fast Food Wars 2024, Middle Out Compression in effect, and 10 characters and cultural works. I am Merwat. That is ohmTown.com over there. And up there is the visualizer for the sentient AI that keeps me out of trouble. Sometimes isn't fast enough because I operate at quantum speeds.
Right, and I'm definitely lagged. Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
I would normally throw this. But I'm not gonna. Instead, I'm just gonna get straight on into the articles. And we've already selected 10 of them as I just did a rundown. Those are the little segments. In the future, we're going to have timestamps and all of that in the show notes so that you can just jump right to an article. I've done it before in the past, but I've been kind of, I don't know, quiet quitting or what else is there? What's another thing?
Oh, goodness. I forgot what all the other ones are.
Barely phoning it in terms of show notes.
Basically.
Yeah. So, we're still working on the site in terms of functionality and features. And the YouTube channel is still out there. The Discord is still there. The Patreon is still there. The podcast is still there. We have played catch up. The last 3 of the time travel episodes are going up probably tonight. I'll try and get them all in the can tonight, but I gotta hit the gym. So and it's not even a New Year's resolution. It's basically because, well, I've done it off and on. Now I'm just making everybody know about it as well. You know what? I'm rambling. Let's get into the show. The first article here that we're going to talk about is in the ohmTown channel. You get to watch as a seal tries to pull off a scuba diver's hood. A scuba diver had an amusing, it's not always amusing, interaction with a pair of seals when one of them tried to yank off his hood while he was off the coast of northern England. That's a chilly place to lose your hood.
Right. And that is not one of the dangers I would expect scuba diving.
Yeah, that actually happens. Depending on your location, it actually happens quite a bit. They tend to be playful and curious. What's making all of the bubbles and noise and stuff like that, and so they'll come and take a mask if they can, or grab your snorkel.
Which sounds funny, but it's probably not very funny when it's happening to you.
And when you're new, you're definitely not going, hey, this is pretty cool, because they could bite your reg, they could bite a hose. But then again, I trained with people that like to swim up behind you and turn your air off. So, hey.
Wow.
I'm not so worried about a seal. But let's go and look at this article. Oh, it actually has the video attached to it, so that's pretty cool. So let's just play it. I don't know if there's going to be audio. There is. So what you see basically is they're in a dry suit. This isn't a wetsuit. So they're not going to be able to pull that hood off. Oh, look at those teeth. See what I was talking about?
That's shocking. Like, you'd always see shark teeth, but not seal teeth.
Yeah. See how he's over by the first stage, he can, yeah, this is kind of chilly water to be doing that in, man. So he's nibbling on the suit.
Wow.
Yeah. And those teeth
Rather
are,
persistent.
those are, this thing wasn't playing. Yeah, I would have freaked
agree.
out. And that's all there is to this video, but I would probably kind of do some boot scoot and boogie out of there, because I would not entertain that, because all it takes really is this thing to get fed up with you not either being dead or playing dead, and it could clip a hose, or it could be a little bit more aggressive. But every diver basically has a backup just in case, a little portable air can if their rig gets messed up. And there's a backup on your BCD, so it's not that big of a deal, but I wouldn't want to mess around with it. So, because, I mean, it can start jerking you around in a way that you may not be used to. So it's
couldn't
neat.
you get either pushed down or disoriented or whatever, depending on how aggressive it's being?
Yeah, I mean, it can really disorient you, but basically, whenever you exhale, whichever direction the bubbles go up, that's up. So that's primarily how you stabilize. You make sure that wherever the bubbles go, you go. If you need to get out of there, that's what you do. You can inflate your BCD. You might suffer the bends, depending on how long you've been down, how deep you are. But with a dry suit, the seal could have punctured that dry suit, and then water could seep in.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
And then it acts as ballast, really. It acts as water weight, and you just kind of go, oh, shnikey. And it's cold. So, yeah, it's neat, but yeah, I wouldn't have. Just sit there recording it seems less than prudent, at least for me. For them, they may have been used to it, but I would have freaked out a little bit.
Maybe they're like, hey, that's the seal that we see every week or whatever, if we're familiar with that area.
Yeah, that's Joe. You know what? The bot didn't throw our title into the feed again, so this is always bothering me when it does that. That's okay. It's all going out, so it's not that big of a deal. Let me do something here. Okay, so it is 2024. I failed to mention that we're not using the time machine anymore. We probably won't use it until maybe early February of 2024. For a couple of days, we'll have to use the time machine, but hopefully it doesn't cause any earthquakes anymore. The article link is in the chat and will be in the show notes and in the VOD for a little while. So let's get going on the next article. Dun, dun, dun. This next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Illinois is making fuzzy dice legal again because that's what you need in your rearview mirror. Massive distraction.
Well, and okay, of all the laws that they could either take off the books or put on the books, this is really what they focused on?
Look, when you have to update and modernize your laws, you go for the most difficult first. Just like in problem solving, you chop up the big problem into little problems, and then you solve all of the little problems. This is a huge problem because you want dangly things from your rearview mirror at all times, and it's been really oppressive to not have dice dangling from your rearview mirror. On Monday, hundreds of new laws are set to take effect. One of them includes an Illinois law that will make rearview mirror decor legal, because that's what we need in 2024. More shit distracting us from.
I mean, people are such good drivers as it is, you know.
You know, we have solved vehicular accidents. So let's obstruct the view and hang wind chimes. Let's just cut out the middleman and hang wind chimes.
There you go. Now we got visual and audio distractions. I was thinking of the car near ohmTown that went completely sideways. Like, we have cars like that out on the road, and this is not going to help.
It'll make it more entertaining. Hey, look at those dice. Where can I get a wind chime like that?
As the car is about to run you off the road.
The one that well, it did more than go sideways. It rolled 4 times and ended up in a ditch. And I got there before emergency services, which was interesting. Even though I think that they were geographically closer. It's okay. But the driver was okay, and I think I know why. They had fuzzy dice. Yes, there you go. So fuzzy dice will finally be free to dangle in Illinois. That's right. Starting Monday, police in the state will no longer be allowed to pull over motorists solely because they have something dangling from their windshield's rearview mirror. Man, this is going to get pushed into teabagging. I just know it. Anyway, the article is over at Business Insider, and I know that there are some people that are in ohmTown probably giggling right now. Hannah Gedehoon and Associated Press put this article together, and there you go. There's your pair of dangling bits hanging from what might be a rear view mirror. I'm not quite sure. It just says hang on a rear view mirror, but it's from NASCAR, so there's a roll cage. Not everybody driving is going to have a roll cage, of course. But there you go, Illinois. Aim high. Aim high. There's not much more to say about this, really. Right? I mean,
I just think it's fascinating, although there is more to it, right? It's because of the stops for that purpose, but it still sounds like really that was our biggest problem to solve in the state. I mean, or any state.
With this, here's the quote of probably 2024 right out of the gate. With this new law, we are sending a powerful message that the state does not tolerate racial profiling or other forms of discrimination. Right.
Well, certainly that's a bigger issue than fuzzy dice.
So they tied racial equality and equity to fuzzy freaking dice hanging from rearview mirrors. I presume it's because in the article they talk about the fact that that's leverage.
Like it's like pretext to pull somebody over or something, which correct. I wasn't thinking about when it was in the headline, but they leave that part out, I guess, in the report. Hey, I pulled somebody over because they had stuff hanging from their rearview mirror. Oh, and by the way, I also did it because they're black or because they're not Caucasian in any way, shape, or form. That right there is kind of the blanket statement. I wonder if in Illinois they can ask you the question that they don't allow in California about, do you know why I pulled you over? Because they could pull you over for fuzzy dice but they ask that and then you say something like, oh, I just did a drug deal on the corner or whatever.
It all gets kicked.
Right.
Yeah. Do you know why I pulled you over? Is it because of the fuzzy dice? So it says guns will be regulated after a record year of shootings. Oh, is that all it's taken? Huh. Not a lifetime, a centuries documentation of shootings. It was just a record year. All right. A Minnesota law will allow authorities to ask courts for extreme risk protection orders to temporarily take guns from people deemed to be in imminent threat to others or themselves. Yeah, by the time that extreme risk protection order actually happens, they've probably assaulted somebody or there was another or. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at that. They've probably committed some activity. Oh, the or was it'll get kicked because it's a thought crime. Right? Just because I come across as a threat doesn't mean I am a threat. So you're unconstitutionally going to take my guns because the thought crime allowed somebody to document that I'm an extreme risk protection order candidate. You know?
Right.
Yeah. This is all kind of weird stuff. Colorado will become one of a dozen states banning so-called ghost guns. They're 3D printed without serial numbers. There's no tracking.
Right. They're not traceable.
Like mm-hmm. Yep. And you can destroy a 3D printed gun pretty damn easy. And rifling isn't registered and stuff like that. So, because when a gun is made, manufacturing, a round is sent through the barrel so that you have rifling on record. So if a crime is committed, go ahead.
I was going to say, wouldn't there also be a safety issue too if somebody was printing one and didn't really know what they were doing?
Sure. Well, that's all kinds of liability right there. Anybody who's printing a gun and it blows up on the customer's face when they actually go to fire it for any purpose, the 3D printer is liable for it, even if they weren't going to do something illegal with this ghost gun. Supreme Court declined to block an Illinois law from taking effect Monday that bans high-powered semi-automatic rifles and high-capacity magazines. So that makes sense. Sure. I don't know.
Well, no, that one...
They declined to block an Illinois law from taking effect that bans it.
So that means that it's going into effect, so...
Oh, I'm reading it backwards.
Yeah. It's written in a confusing manner.
Yeah, they've failed to affirm the negative of the positive of the cousin, sister's, uncle's opinion. So, yeah, I mean, if it's going into effect to ban high-powered semi-automatic rifles, but, you know, this is always subjective, you know. What is a semi-automatic rifle or a high-powered semi-automatic rifle? All of them can delete things, so I don't really, well-regulated militia, everybody needs to have a weapon, sure. But I didn't mean to get into all of this deep dive stuff in politics, but these are laws. It's not politics, it's laws that I'm discussing. So North Carolina law requires that adult website operators confirm viewers are at least 18 using commercially available database. Man, this I think is probably the creepiest thing, because then it's basically compromise on anybody who views an adult website. It can compromise employment. You know, if this database leaks out and it's actually utilized, require adult website operators to confirm viewers are at least 18 years old using a commercially available database. And then another one about victims of revenge, what's known as revenge porn.
Deep fake imagery. Oh. Yes.
Well, I mean, victims of deep fake adult content, but revenge porn and other things like that. All of this it's common sense. I don't know why laws have to be made when
because nobody can pursue it if it's not on the books.
Because it's not enumerated. People push the limits until it has to be enumerated, but in the process, thousands of people are being hurt each year because of this stuff. And then they go into LGBTQ rights, which for right out of the gate, 2024, you know what? People need to be who people are. Nobody else should be able to tell them who they are. So you be you. And unfortunately, there are people out there that are saying, you know, government stay out of our lives, but I want to use government to invade everybody else's life. So here we go. And then minimum wage is being raised all over the place, mainly because of unions and the cost of living requiring people to get paid. Otherwise, employers won't be able to get employees, and then the business collapses because they can't keep up. But a static minimum wage of $7.25 since 2009 basically means that, and even now, even at $15 an hour in Maryland, and it says most employees will earn $15.13 in New Jersey. All of this is still, barely something to survive off of. You basically have to live with 6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. 2004 is looking like it's going to be just a more expensive, sorry, not 2004. 2024 is going to be a more expensive.
Going into the time machine.
Yeah, back into the time machine. It's because of the 2009 reference. 2024.
Well, we've already seen in 2024 at least one employer in one of these states fired all of its delivery drivers once the minimum wage went into effect. So it's already having negative consequences.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll see what happens. And now those people are going to have to use a gig economy process to keep on getting salaries or a livable wage. And I've heard people sitting there bragging, well, they're making more money in the gig economy than as an employee. Not really. They're
what
competing.
About benefits?
Yeah, they're competing constantly.
And there's also been lots of articles about people like Uber and Lyft drivers. They have to drive more and more miles for less per mile or per hour or whatever.
Right.
So they're making less money anyway.
And the wear and tear on the vehicle, and they have increased insurance rates because it's for commercial purposes. They risk much greater loss of livelihood should anything happen. So, and then they talk about past state law introductions. In 2023, hundreds of laws took effect for the first time across states, many of which tackled important issues like minimum wage and legalization of marijuana. 27 states increased minimum wage. Maryland and Missouri legalized marijuana. Colorado passed laws decriminalizing psychedelic mushrooms. Yeah. So it's Colorado, the party state. And it says state laws are fairly standard, but obscure and strange ones can find their way into the books. For example, in Kentucky, public officials must make an oath that they've never fought a duel with deadly weapons, while fortune telling is illegal in Maryland. If you want to read more about this kind of stuff, follow the link through ohmTown. And at the bottom of the article, there's the weirdest laws in each state, provided by Business Insider. That'll be an interesting one. Oh, talk about hacking reality. This is just nuts. Some of this stuff. You want to keep going?
Yes.
I do too, but the transition isn't working. There we go. So the next article is over in the Warcrafter channel. Steam's Best of 2023 highlights top sellers, most played. Apparently Steam Deck players really like Half-Life. This article is over at PC Gamer. Valve has released their annual Best of Steam 2023, a showcase of what was played most and made the most money, broken down into roughly grouped tiers: platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. In a year of absolutely great games, some of the best chart toppers aren't surprises, but dang, I'd never have guessed that Half-Life, the 1998 classic, would make the top tier of the most played Steam Deck games by daily active players. I wonder if it comes default in a Steam Deck. The article is over. Oh, wait. Let me grab it and throw it into the chat. So, the article is over at PCGamer.com. Jonathan Bolding is the author, and the deck statement says, seriously, Half-Life in the same tier as Baldur's Gate 3, Dave the Diver, and Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors is a very interesting game. It's kind of borderline bullet hell, but the way that it plays is really manageable and I've seen some really crazy bullet hell kind of games. The bullet hell is actually you emanating the bullets. So you have to survive things coming at you in massive waves, and it's a lot of fun. So here's the list. I'm not sure if it's actually been broken out as a list. No, they didn't do it as a list.
I don't know why they do narrative style when there's several games that are mentioned.
Yeah. So the list of top sellers by revenue is the usual. Is really Melange? Okay. Of the biggest free-to-play games on Steam alongside the largest releases, led by releases like Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield, perhaps the biggest surprise was the Sons of the Forest cracking into the same tier as big AAA releases. Sons of the Forest is in still beta, and it has the wonkiest kind of storyline, because you end up interacting with somebody that has 3 legs, and it ends in this supernatural type of setting. You just kind of sit there going, what the heck? But everybody loved it. It's a horror game, survival game, but everybody loved it who played it. I'm not sure if I bought it. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, nice to see that for once tiny studio succeeded, I guess, in this. Goose Goose Duck, the free-to-play game that copied Among Us so hard it became popular in almost exactly the same way. I've never even played it. Presumably because of its peak player count last January of over 700,000 people played it at once. So that's pretty spectacular. And the section on new releases by gross revenue is interesting, showing that traditionally console-forward games like Jedi Survivor and Street Fighter 6 are finding real legs on Steam, charting alongside stuff like Baldur's Gate 3 and Remnant 2. And they drew attention to people still buying games received badly, like Payday 3, City Skylines 2, which I thought that I was going to fall in love with, and I don't like it at all. And then Platinum tier, because they're in the top Platinum tier. Otherwise, to their surprise, the author's surprise, Far Cry 6 only charted at Silver, and a lot of people really like Far Cry 6. So, anyway,
I think
there's
the
more.
biggest thing that stands out for me is that there's so many in there that are not original games. Like there's sequels and so forth.
That's a great observation. Yeah. And a lot of people like poo-poo the idea of sequels to games and movies and shows and blah, 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 right? But I guess 2023 was the season of the sequel. And there's
sure looks like it. I know it doesn't from the deck statement, but in the article it seemed like there were a lot of those.
Yeah, well, yeah, because Dave the Diver is original, Vampire Survivors is original, Baldur's Gate 3 is actually original in terms of who developed it and all of that, but yeah, Half-Life is old, so it just gets enhanced. Okay, let's keep on going though. So the next article is over in the continuity report. All 7 of Reacher's rules in the Amazon TV show explained. The only bummer about Reacher right now is that there's only 5 of the estimated 8 episodes for season 2. Season 3 is apparently on deck, but it's gonna be late, 2024, early 2025?
I'm not sure. I don't think they've released a date for it yet.
Gotcha. Well, whenever it comes out, I will be sitting there waiting for it to drop. I wish that they would have released it all at once, but nope, they drip it out. This article's over at Screen Rant. Did I copy this to throw it into the chat? Probably not. It's okay. So there's the Screen Rant. All of Reacher's rules. Fans of the Amazon Prime Video TV show know that Jack Reacher has some hard and fast rules, and here are Reacher's 7 rules that are the most memorable. Kate Bove is the author over at Screen Rant. So let's see if they actually... Okay, so assumptions kill. We learned of that in season 2 so far. Assumptions kill. I don't know how often it was mentioned in season 1, but the whole cohort wasn't involved in season 1. It was just him interacting with his the storyline surrounding his... Do I want to
right,
spoil
like the
any
police
of it?
department and the town he was in.
His brother was dispatched in a field in that movie, in that season. And then in an investigation, details matter. That popped up again in season 2. You learn a lot about Reacher, and that he's not necessarily the cold and menacing human being human-shaped brick building. Your first shot better be your best shot, which is why they had what was his name? The sniper, the guy with the best shooting record. They always called him Gramps and stuff like that. And he was like the oldest in the entire
Right. I don't remember what his
group.
Character name was.
Because he says your first shot better be your best shot, and that's why I have this guy. Maybe they mentioned it here. Let's see.
It looks like James Barr, maybe. Does that sound right?
I don't know. Because we haven't really interacted with him, right? Not so much. That's okay.
I don't
know. He throws this one down quite easily, but I don't know if it's really a rule. Leave me and my friends alone, I leave you alone. He says that in an officer's bar, military officer's bar. And that turns into a bar brawl that gets everybody together in one big happy family because they all defend each other.
Right, that's like the origin story of the 110th.
Yep. And then no possessions other than a toothbrush. I love it that they show up in a hotel room and they're like, are you unpacked? And he pulls out his toothbrush and sets it on the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink and goes, I am now. Yep. This guy, I mean, he provides his own protection from rain just by existing. He's like the building and the awning and everything. Awesome dude. Sleep when you can. That's pretty much military right there. Sleep when you can.
Oh, it talked about the toothbrush thing.
Oh, really? In the article it does? Up above?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Neely encourages Reacher to unpack, prompting him to place his toothbrush on the counter. Yep. It's a funny moment, but also incredibly telling. Yeah. He lives off of his pension. But actually, like... right? That's what he referred to it as, a pension, right?
I don't hear that part.
Huh. Because he's like, I'll pay you back for the hotel, I'll pay you back for the flight, I'll pay you back for
That's right. That's right.
And he goes, I'll get my check next month. And I'm like, wait, are you living month to month off of your retirement? So Jack Reacher's rules book by Lee Child explained. So Lee Child is the author of the series of books. I think there's over 30 of them, all involving Jack Reacher. And the series is actually based on each of the books, but not in the order of the books. So the first season is 8 or 9 books away from the second season. And while they tell us what the names of the books are in both of the seasons, I don't recall them. Doesn't matter. Doesn't change the nature of the show. So when in doubt, drink coffee. Never volunteer for anything. Show them what they're messing with. People mess with me at their own risk. I love the other one that he says while he's in the car. I don't hit soft. That one's not even mentioned in here, I don't think. But yeah. he's got a great personality. And let's see. In 2012, Lee Child penned a book called Jack Reacher's Rules, a 152-page tome written from the titular character's point of view. The work compiles the Maverick's most well-worn advice into a single collection. And the advice, bits of wisdom, and time-honored tactics are pulled straight from the pages of Child's novels, making it a must-read for fans of Amazon Prime Video's Reacher 2. I agree. I really want... This is motivating me to get into the series, but my God, 30-plus books?
It would take a while to get through them.
Okay, so either that or a doctorate. What do you think? Which one is going to be cheaper?
The books.
I don't know. Plus, I listen to audiobooks. See, I have an inner monologue. So I read slow and with emotional inflection, and sometimes I live the experience. Hey, you folks out there, come to chat tomorrow or the next day, every day, 8 p.m. And let's have a discussion about this inner monologue thing. The research is quite fascinating. And, well, I want to talk with everybody about it because I'm really curious. And I actually have a question that I'm going to be doing some research on this year, over the span of this entire year. And I'll be asking questions. So come and hang out. Has nothing to do with this article. But
associative thinking.
It's all, thank you. Wow. The sentient AI comes to my rescue. It's true. Associative thinking. It's all tied together. Let's keep going. This next article is over in the Warcrafter channel. CES 2024 preview, the future of PC gaming hardware. I thought CES was dead. So when this article popped up in the feed, I said, yeah, let's talk about it. So I thought the Consumer Electronics Show is a goner. It was canceled last year. Everybody bailed out. It's easy to have.
I thought the E3 or whatever was the only one that was canceled.
See, but I thought it was E3 and CES. I thought all of it is gone, right? So anyway, we're weeks away from the biggest tech jamboree of the year, Consumer Electronics Show, or CES. It's expected that 130,000 attendees and 3,500 vendors will descend on the sprawling complex of exhibition centers and show floors across Las Vegas for the event, which opens on January 9th. Among them will be the very own Jacob. So this is from PC Gamer, and they're sending out their person on the streets kind of a thing. So battling through the hordes to bring you the very best PC gaming tech from the show, but exactly what will they find at CES 2024? And I stopped paying attention to CES, which is probably a disservice to CES. So, and since it didn't really pop up on my radar often enough, I was like, oh, okay. I'm not in the industry, so I don't get invites there. I don't have really a major purpose there, but I report on what gets reported, so we talk about it here. This is definitely something that would show up in the Wanted show, but I think this is in Warcrafters because it comes from PC Gamer. Anyway, new graphics cards, all the screens, and more AI than you can eat. All right. Weeks away from the biggest tech jamboree. Let's see. Everything AI all at once. Let's see. What else? NVIDIA supersizes, so they're going to bump up. They're probably going to announce a 5000 series at some point.
Oh boy. How much do you think that'll be priced at?
$2,000 just for that. Either way, you won't see what you won't see is NVIDIA's next gen Blackwell GPUs, probably to be branded RTX 50 series. I refer to them as 5000 series because that's what they all are. They won't appear until at least the end of 2024, maybe not until 2225. So these are going to be very powerful. Apparently, they have a typo. The year 20,225.
Hey, they're planning ahead.
There you go. So let's see, what else do they have on here? Meteor Lake, Deep Impact. This is another of there's a series of Intel roadmap hurdles that they're slowly crossing, kind of churning through it over the months and years. So this is just one more drip of tech. What's interesting about this is this modularity of the chip, I think, matches the M2, the new Apple architecture, the ARM architecture that was licensed by Apple and enhanced by Apple. I think that's what Intel is looking to accomplish the same way, so that they can just mash multiple chips together to create server level chips. But I'm not really deep in the loop about this, so don't hold me to that. I haven't focused on chips in that technology for a considerable amount of time. It's only getting smaller and more powerful by clapping more processors together. Again, drip, drip, drip of the business model. Let's go on to the next article, or not the next article, but the next thing that they have in their list here. AMD FSR, or all at once, it says everything. So sorry for the repeat gag, but AMD has already announced that its FSR3 upscaling tech is going open source. So hopefully you can see it get integrated into more software deployments to facilitate making graphics better for AMD, just like NVIDIA's iteration of FSR. It's basically graphics enhancements to upscale graphics so that you get better performance, but without so much overhead on the GPU. Then they talk about
Qualcomm. Sounds like a positive thing.
Yeah, but it's not being deployed easily by everybody or adopted by everybody, and so it kind of pushes AMD out on the edge. Whereas NVIDIA is integrated like by default. Like if you don't cover NVIDIA, you're done for. You don't have to cover AMD because most people are going to take on NVIDIA hardware. Qualcomm's new killer CPU. Let me see. I don't want to spend all day on this. I think what I'm going to end up doing is just kind of saying, hey, go check out this article over at PC Gamer. I want to see if there's something. Oh, let's see. Weird and wacky prototypes.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Of course, it wouldn't be CES without a weird and wacky prototypes. Back in 2008, Alienware wowed the world with a prototype curved PC monitor with an ultra-wide 21:9 aspect. Could you imagine such a thing? Nowadays, it's pretty standard fare. Actually, back then, it used DLP rear projection, so it had to have been massive. I don't remember seeing it. But 2008 seems like it's 20 years ago. 2017 saw a triple screen Razer laptop. That's this one right here. Project Valerie. So we'll see what happens. This will be interesting because 2024, I think, is going to be one of those years where supply chain issues and the absolutely outrageous prices for items is just going to overwhelm people's budgets. Yeah, I just don't think that that's going to work out all that well. Okay.
Well, and also if everybody bought all of these new things in, say, last year or so, are they really going to be able, the average person, are they really going to be able to buy some of this stuff now?
Yeah. Yep. It's basically new every 2 years. And if you pulled the trigger last year, you're going to be out of luck until like 2027. Let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily, and we're off. Time to get started on this year's public domain game jam. Here, let let me throw it into the chat. There you go. Happy New Year, everyone, and happy Public Domain Day. That's right. Today's the day the works from 1928 exit copyright protections and become public domain in the U.S., and that means it's time for the latest edition of Tech Dirt's annual public domain game jam, gaming like it's 1928. They're calling on designers of all stripes and all levels of experience to put this year's newly public domain works to use in digital and analog games. Oh boy, they are drawing a target over 1928, Mickey.
I know.
So, of course, the big news this year is that Mickey Mouse, in its earliest incarnation, is finally entering the public domain. I think what they're going to do is thaw Walt Disney, reclaim the copyright because they're still alive, then put them back on ice and
because they're
extend
doing
it
something
for
like the crypto pets. Or
well,
the
no,
cryo pets.
Cryopets, yeah. Well, supposedly he's actually on ice.
Oh,
Waiting for a Frankenstein's monster's body to be fabricated. He's gonna come out looking like Reacher. And he's just gonna keep on telling people to chill, like me. Anyway, so it's not just the mouse that's free to use today. There are books by Virginia Woolf and Evelyn. How do you pronounce that? Waff?
I think so. Wall.
Movies by Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, and songs like Mac the Knife and the score of Animal Crackers, plus an untold number of obscure and forgotten things just waiting to be found and resurrected. Copyright Lately and Duke both offer lists to get you started. As usual, the jam is open to games of all types, whether analog, card games, board games, tabletop RPGs, LARPs, that LARP is live action role playing, or digital, anything that can be played in the browser. And the only requirement being that they use the works from 1928 that have entered the public domain this year. So entries are due by the end of January, and Tech Dirt will be giving away prizes in 6 categories: Best Analog Game, Best Digital Game, Best Adaptation, Best Remix, Best Visuals, and Best Deep Cut. So this is by Lee, right? Lee Beadon? Bed? I'm sorry, Tech Dirt. I never went to Harvard, so. But I'm giving it the budget Harvard try. Pretty cool. I don't like doing stuff just to do stuff. But they've got moxie to put all of this together and to fund it and to drive home the messaging that this stuff is available. So get creative, because that's really what copyright was supposed to do. Protect the creator and their works. And at some point terminate that so that other people can utilize the information to stoke creativity. People who create that kind of stuff, though, really don't like sharing because it wouldn't be in existence if it wasn't for them. And it's almost punitive. I think
it's going to be hard to adjust to Mickey Mouse being in the public domain. Now, I do understand that version isn't the one that a lot of us think of, because it doesn't have, I think, the gloves and the hands are larger in the modern versions.
Yeah, and this is just the line art, right? This is just the black pen ink version of it.
Yeah, it's from Steamboat Willie. I think I read that in a different article.
Yeah. So it isn't the one. Basically, I don't know how you can protect something like that to this degree, because there doesn't seem to be much of a uniqueness there, other than the big ears or something like that. But it came out first, so obviously it's the anchor for all creativity about mice and mice-related characters. So Ratatouille, basically stole the idea of piloting a human by pulling on their hair. Let's keep going. Sound good?
Sounds good.
The next article is over in the Mobile channel. This is, it says Zai Technique, the Zai Technique. I wanted to do this because we grow crops here in ohmTown, right? And it says how farmers in the Sahel how farmers in the Sahel grow crops with little to no water. Hubert Reeves once wrote that on the cosmic scale, liquid water is rarer than gold, and what is true for the universe is even truer for the Sahel. The name given to the vast arid belt that skirts the Sahara and stretches across Africa from east to west. Now, this article is over at phys.org. Raphael Bellman, Hamado Sawadogo, and Musa Nediner. Sorry, I think it's Nediner. Anyway, from The Conversation, it's a podcast and a website called theconversation.com. They put the article together. And it starts out with 4 pictures that describe an onion plot and other crops, right? Depending on, they're in Senegal. So various farmers in Senegal. And the article talks about how they use little to no water, and usually it's the crop is what demands it. So it's not like they're doing something magic, but they are doing something magic in the sense that they are utilizing as little water as possible in a place that you can't just break out a hose and spray it everywhere. So it takes some skill and wisdom to do this.
Plus, they're probably actually working with the land and not against it, like we see in some other regions, like in the U.S.
Right. Like, like trying to grow almonds in a place that requires you draining all of Colorado into, Northern California. So faced with the poor distribution of water across space and time, they had to resort to intelligent, thrifty methods to make the most of even the tiniest drop. Overlooked for many years, the secrets of Sahelian landscape are starting to pique the interest of researchers and decision makers. Each year in Yatenga, northern Burkina Faso, the first June rains arrive to soothe the scorch of the seemingly interminable dry season. The now quenched soil breathes life back into the bushlands as clumps of millet and sorghum spring up just about everywhere, transforming parched savannas into verdant thickets. So it says, some have attempted to adapt and innovate in this hostile landscape. Yakuba Sawadogo is one of them. In a barren field in the village of Gurga, Yakuba and his family are hard at work perforating the crusted soil in preparation for the first rain. Each wielding a daba, which is a traditional tool similar to an adze, which is like a axe hammer kind of thing. They dig down into the red laterite earth. The farmers perform a pattern of vigorous movements, dividing up the plots with their neat, orderly divots. Into each one, they drop a handful of compost, a few grains of sorghum, and a dusting of light soil. Job done. The field's ready to welcome the next rainstorm. On the face of it, it seems counterintuitive to sow seeds at the height of the dry season in a field riddled with holes, but this expertise, known as Zai, has been honed by the peoples of the Yatenga for centuries, and by virtue of this revolutionary farming technique, they have mastered the art of catching rain. Basically, I think they're creating little buckets that are nutrient rich, so that when the rain does come, it doesn't go anywhere.
Collects where it's needed, right?
Exactly. So the family possessed tiny areas of poor soil, but fell out of favor when the rain became more plentiful in the 1950s. Soon after, however, came the desperately dry decades of the 70s and 80s. Faced with ever-encroaching desert, Yakuba Sawadogo unearthed the technique of Zai, which he has used since to revitalize and reforest 27 hectares of degraded land, basically building it back up little bit by little bit. I find it kind of interesting. Not kind of interesting. I find it very interesting that it's a trite word, but synergy, when you utilize these synergistic techniques, you can pivot away from, arid, unusable land. It says ingenious but costly. So all it takes is a little hole. Well, maybe it may seem simple. Zai is actually based on a number of complex ecological mechanisms. The technique involves concentrating water and manure in one spot. That's why I said nutrient rich, thereby favoring crop growth in a context of scarce, unpredictable rainfall. Seed pockets are prepared during the dry season. These refer to holes measuring 10 to 15 centimeters in depth, 20 to 40 centimeters in diameter, which are lined with organic fertilizer and sown with cereals, namely millet or sorghum. So something that absorbs all of that rain and keeps it where it needs to go. Then when the rain comes, the enriched pocket fills with water, releases nutrients that attract termites of the genus, really, Trinervitermes, I guess? Trinervitermes. These insects dig burrows that let water penetrate deep within the soil, but their droppings also transform the organic matter in such a way that the plants can assimilate it. So this is actually, wow, this is
really interesting.
Like a partnership with all of nature. I'm waiting for...
Yeah, it's like a symbiotic relationship or something.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And the process results in the formation of moist, fertile pouch for the plant to develop its roots. Some authors claim that using Zai millet and sorghum fields can reach 1,500 kilograms of grain per hectare, compared to less than 500 per hectare with normal conditions. So it's a little bit...
Well, if there's anything to that, that's definitely worth pursuing.
Yep, I think this is great. So the article goes into greater detail as usual. There's a little bit more here, but I think that it's brilliant that they're actually working with nature and the resources instead of forcing nature to bend to the whim of economic factors, right? These people are putting their entirety into this project. And look what they have. I mean, they have crops growing where crops shouldn't be growing simply because of somebody paying attention to what goes on with this series of steps.
Well, and it's really fascinating that this one person has led the effort to reforest such a large area of land. I mean, hopefully they can you imagine if this one person's rediscovery of this technique could transform this entire region?
Yeah, that would be amazing, you know? And just so everybody understands this isn't the first time that somebody has done something like this and imparted that wisdom onto other people. Aboriginal people, what we refer to here in the United States as Indians, they had the same type of techniques where they would grow crops and that worked together and did certain things with the soil and planted biological matter with the soil to enrich it and crop rotation and all of that kind of stuff. The wisdom is out there, but economic forces and technological advances basically take what should be something that we are a blending, a connection to, and that's just kneecapping it and mountaintop mining and drilling a hole through a mountain so you can run water from one lake in some other region to a place where it shouldn't even be storing water because the geology doesn't support it. We are creating a Frankenstein's monster of land and saying, look how great we are. Now this is great. This makes, subsistence farming. It is a community providing for the community. I think that's how it really should be. But I guess you don't become a billionaire by actually having community supporting communities. You buy all of the communities, you consolidate all of their resources into a field somewhere in Hurricane Alley, and then tell people that they can't go home when a hurricane... I'm sorry. 2024, folks. I haven't learned my lesson. Let's go on to the next article. This next article is over in ohmTown Daily. The Business Insider series, it seems, on food, they tried Taco Bell's new coffee chillers and shakes, and some are nearly as good as Starbucks' Frappuccinos for
Okay, so I didn't even know Taco Bell had coffees.
You stepped on me saying the title of the article.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. I mean, you did, but I'm not. No need to apologize. So 30% less. That's the cost. 30% less than Starbucks Frappuccinos and nearly as good. But nearly as good is subjective. So I don't really buy into it. But like the AI said, you said what?
I didn't even realize Taco Bell had coffees.
Yeah, me neither. But we know from Demolition Man, which is a documentary, who wins the
Taco
fast food
Bell
wars.
wins the fast food wars.
And this is how they do it. They basically displace McDonald's and Starbucks. McDonald's has great coffee, by the way. Now they have Cosmics, which is supposed to be like a foo-foo kind of hoo-ha-hoo-ha place to compete with Starbucks. But Taco Bell is testing frozen iced coffee beverages and shakes. Because you know what I want when I'm eating a Doritos Locos taco?
Not an iced coffee.
A McFlurry
But it sounds
equivalent.
good if they're trying to just get the coffee crowd to come through and get a coffee.
You know, they have breakfast too. One of these days, the only places that are going to exist are going to be Taco Bell's. The 2-store test in California comes as McDonald's launches beverage-focused Cosmics. They tried the 7 frozen drinks whose flavors range from Mexican chocolate to wild strawberry. I don't know. This seems not aligned for a positive outcome. Nancy Luna, who did the other food-related articles that we've been talking about this past week, including at least, 1 or 2 in our time machine. This is a Business Insider article. Let's run through this list real quick. They tried 7 frozen drinks. I don't think I want to go through all 7 of them, but let's see. Taco Bell enters the category led by Starbucks, soda and coffee-focused chains like Swig. What?
I've never heard of that or seen it.
What is Swig and 7 Brews? Are they in Canada or something? And even McDonald's is getting into the trend with Cosmics, a new beverage-focused concept. So let's see. 7 frozen drinks are topped with a thick cold foam, a popular add-on for many of the Starbucks drinks. That's quite interesting.
This can't be the right... No, it's not the right one. Never mind. Because it didn't have enough presence.
Gotcha. So Taco Bell is testing 4 churro chillers in Southern California. Taco Bell tested more than a dozen menu items in 2023, including the first ever experiment in frozen coffee beverages and shakes. It's only 4, but they mentioned 7, it seemed, so I don't know what quite is going on here. The churro chillers are being tested at a Taco Bell in Irvine, California. They keep on referring to it as churro chillers, but here's the flavors: Mexican chocolate, dulce de leche coffee, wild strawberry, and sweet vanilla. All 4 drinks cost $4.19 for a 16-ounce cup. By the way, people have taken notice the increase in prices of fast food. We've been talking about it for 2 years, and all predicated on the fact that I was told randomly by somebody who I wish I would have documented in a better way in 2019 that the era of cheap food is over. That's right, you poors. Start struggling more. That's basically... From the supply side, you're going to have to work in the mines harder. Yeah. Me, I'm going to be doing this show, so in about 8 years, I'm going to be rolling in streamer money.
Well, yeah, you have to follow the 10-year rule. By the way, I could not find Swig at all, but a 7 Brew is all over the US.
Really?
It has more than 100 locations. I've never heard of it. It's all over mostly the East
Oh, interesting. Wow. I'll have to keep an eye out.
and
I guess we're
Central.
going to have to leave ohmTown, once or twice a year. So they talk about dulce de leche and the other flavors, but I'm not going to go through this kind of stuff. Go and check it out. In fact, I would say fly on over to Irvine and give it a taste, and then log in tomorrow and or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday at 8 o'clock, and we can have a chat here in ohmTown. What do you say? You go.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Let's get on to the next article. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Amazon eliminated his role. 4 months later, he's still getting paychecks. If you've ever watched the movie Silicon Valley, this is the equivalent of middle-out compression. Amazon laid off more than 27,000 people in 2023. Dear God! 27,000.
That's a lot of people.
The company also announced return to office plans in February. One senior employee said RTO plans were one tactic Amazon used to weed out employees. Weed out employees by something as beneficial.
I know, that's really, we really care about our personnel.
Yeah, it's sociopathic. Too bad they own Twitch, right? I'm not going to get any partnership now. Amazon eliminated his role. 4 months later, he's still getting paychecks. Lloyd Lee and Catherine Tanglakis-Lippert put the article together. Every episode, I get a little tongue-tied somewhere. Well, let's see. On September 1st, Justin Garrison's senior role and team at Amazon Web Services, Amazon's cloud computing subsidiary, was eliminated, but he wasn't fired. He just no longer had a role. He's still getting his regular paychecks. As seen in the pay stubs he shared with Business Insider, for the past 4 months, Garrison has been stuck in limbo at Amazon, where his managers won't let him go or assign him new work, but instead tell him to look for another role internally or find a job somewhere else. Garrison, a senior...
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? A senior developer advocate at AWS for almost 4 years, writing documentation and testing cloud computing products, said it's been part of a concerning pattern within the company the past year following the layoffs of more than 27,000 employees and return to office plans announced in February. So rather than conducting another round of mass firings that might spook shareholders or push workers out with pricey severance packages, Garrison and another Amazon employee told Business Insider that they feel the company is trying to make employees' lives miserable, either by enforcing RTO or sticking them in a position that pays less or has a more junior title. Quiet firing.
Does this remind you of the movie Office Space?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's basically a little bit of Office Space and Silicon Valley. Remember, they even talk about it. They hired that one guy, it moved him up the ranks, and he sat around on the roof, like drinking and getting stoned or something like that. He was this really goofy guy.
I remember that part of it.
Yeah. And they basically, he's like, well, I can do whatever I want. They're not going to fire me. Because it looks bad. If you start firing a bunch of people, it spooks the stockholders.
Like the investors or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you a company isn't successful unless they are adding positions. When you get really big, adding positions means that you're growing. So if you start firing 50,000 people, it means that your business is basically overpopulated. What the hell have you been doing? Investors go, oh, something is wrong here. And then they start pulling their money out. Stock drops, blah, blah, blah. So, for Garrison, the office option were Seattle, San Francisco, Austin, Vancouver, Canada. When he chose Vancouver, Garrison said that he was told the company probably wouldn't sponsor a work visa. So it wasn't even an option, he said. Afterward, Garrison was told that his team had a 1-year remote exception, but 2 days later on September 1st, he learned that his entire team was being eliminated. All but 2 people on his team found other internal roles. Garrison told BI that he had a month and a half of work to finish at AWS. His skip level manager told Garrison, after you finish your work here, if you find another job externally, take it. So you're telling me to go find another job and go take another job without any repercussions to you. And that seems very disingenuous. It seems really shady. Well, yeah, what are they going to do? If you fire him, he's got either severance package or unemployment, or it looks shady, you know?
Or ill will toward the company.
Right. So it's the best vacation. I was like, this is kind of great, but I also don't know when it's going to end. It seems to know about it and talk about it means that something weird is really going on with this. Like he slipped through the cracks. And legally, if they're not doing any work, somebody needs to know what this guy is up to. You know, it just seems like something weird is going on with this thing. So, I don't know. But when your organization is so big that you can fire 27,000 people, and it's almost unheard of, and you know, like nobody really knows how many people were fired until I saw that number. Like how, wow, that is huge. You know, that's
it really is. And then on top of all the other high layoff numbers from other tech companies in 2023.
Yeah, that's shocking. But yeah, this is very much Office Space / Silicon Valley. Okay, let's keep on going. We have one last article. This last article is it's not just Mickey. 10 characters and cultural works losing some copyright protection, from Peter Pan to Charlie Chaplin. This is just another knock-on article because January 1st marked basically a line in the sand for copyright protection for older IP. I'm just going to go straight on over to Business Insider. Lucia Moses is the author. And it says here, the original Mickey Mouse enters the public domain after Disney's copyright on the image expired. A trove of other cultural works published in 1928 also are losing copyright protection. And here are 10 notable songs, books, and other works and what they stood for. So they say creators rejoice, but really, I don't even like the idea of you utilizing somebody else's IP and calling it my original work. You know, doing a show like this, I'm talking about other people's news, but I'm adding my own perspective. It's basically like a horizontal review of today's news in 50 different categories of news. And so I don't go through the whole article and read it all. I feel weird about taking Mickey Mouse, which is the foundation of an entire business, and using it for my own. Well, just come up with your own. I mean, it's almost vengeful, right? Like it's almost like you've got some baggage and you need to dump that baggage because you hate Disney so much. You're gonna, do something provocative with Mickey Mouse. I'm sure that they can still sue you for harming the business image of Disney. That doesn't protect you from, a lawsuit, and they'll bury you in the court. So, kind of like Blood and Honey, or using Thomas the Tank Engine as a spider.
By the way, Blood and Honey seem to top all lists of worst movies of the year.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. There's a Thomas the Tank Engine spider game as well that riffs off of Thomas the Tank Engine. But you know what? Thomas the Tank Engine is horrible messaging. When you look past the basic level of it, it's creepy. Absolutely creepy. It's not a children's show, let me tell you. Thousands of classic songs, books, and other artistic works published in 1928 are entering the public domain after their 95-year term expires, including films by comedy giants Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, D.H. Lawrence's Lady Chatterley's Lover, and Cole Porter's Let's Do It. So let's go through this list. Mickey Mouse, this Mickey Mouse in particular. Steamboat
But I
Willie.
would say everybody would still recognize that as Mickey Mouse, right? Even though that's not the modern version.
And that's probably mainly true because, let me grab something real quick and throw it in chat. That's mainly true because it actually is part of the intro of Disney videos. They actually show this as the load into, like, this is the intro little video.
Okay.
They played a little snippet where he's whistling. It is whistling where Mickey is whistling. And it's a very short snippet, but it's been there and present. It's just weird that somebody would want to use it. It is part and parcel to Disney. There's nothing you can do with Mickey Mouse, Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse, that is anything other than negative, because anything positive is just
would be basically Disney, right?
Right, would be basically Disney. So they're going to do something provocative, you know? They're going to do blood and honey kind of bullshit. Tigger's hitting public domain. A.A. Milne's House at Pooh Corner. 1926 book, Winnie the Pooh, which inspired a slasher movie, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Peter Pan. This one's kind of shocking.
It is to me, but also there's been so many adaptations of Peter Pan. Of course, those are still protected, so that gets into some of the same things with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. And if somebody takes this iteration of it, which, again, I don't know how you can match it so tight to Peter Pan that your activity with this iteration of Peter Pan doesn't infringe somebody else's Peter Pan.
Exactly.
And you're going to spend a lifetime in court. Charlie Chaplin's The Circus.
I don't see how anybody does anything with that, right? Because it's just with the time frame and everything.
Right. Same thing with this. Lady Chatterley's Lover. The only thing that's going to end up with this is it's going to be adapted, but it's already adapted. It's just not referred to as Lady Chatterley's Lover, you know, overtly, but the storyline, the all of the process of this has been made time and time again. Animal Cracker starring the Marx Brothers. It's so out of date. They're going to goof around with it, but that's about it. A musical that was later turned into a 1930 film featuring some of Groucho's best known lines, like "One morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got in my pajamas, I don't know. But don't. Cole Porter's Let's Do It. Double entendres and daring for touching on the topic of sex. Mac the Knife. People are going to be riffing off of Mac the Knife audio. Like, that's all we're going to hear for the next 2 years is somebody taking sound samples from Mac the Knife.
Right.
Buster Keaton's The Cameraman. Eric Maria Remarque's All Quiet on the Western Front. World War I novel. Virginia Woolf's Orlando. And that's it. So this one is interesting because it's about a nobleman who transforms into a woman and lives for 100 years, has been the subject of women's and gender studies. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting.
It's probably ahead of its time.
I'm sure that it's being vilified in wingnut corners.
I think where we're going to see the most is, like you said, like somebody's going to try to do something egregious with some of these. But then I think the audio ones, like the musical ones, are where we'll see the most activity.
Yeah, certainly. Even, the musicals, they're going to take samples from so that they can do something creative with this little sound sample. And there's two things. It was extremely popular at the time, has a cult following regarding the audio track of it. And it'll be just enough to kind of tickle the fancy of anybody who hears that sample in their more modern music. And there's no anything to stop somebody from doing it because it's now in the public domain. Yeah, I struggle with it. But the idea is that it allows people to build off of the creative juices. But I don't see this as a building block for anything. It isn't fundamental research in science. I don't want to take somebody else's literature and build off of it. It might stoke some creativity, and thus I start world building on my own, but I would never be able to say from that point forward that anything is mine because it's somebody else's foundation.
Well, the other thing that seems like these are not unknown items. I know there probably are unknown items that are losing copyright as well, but
right.
These are things that are like fundamental to like American culture, for example. And so I know that doesn't really matter in terms of whether it should be done or not, but it almost seems like an extra layer of problem to go after, say, a Mickey Mouse or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything except shock. There's nothing that you can do with it. Maybe I'm thinking too narrow, because there have been people that have taken things and pivoted them and made something fantastical out of it. And I just don't think that way, I guess. So I mean,
maybe they could put Mickey Mouse, Peter Pan, and Tigger together in some sort of animated thing, a kid's thing.
Jeez. Cinematic universe, right?
I don't know how that would work, but anyway.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. All right, folks. Well, that's it. Let's get back in the party bus and drive all the way back down Main Street, and then I'm going to mash that button. No, I'm not. Just kidding. I'm going to say good night to everybody. All of these episodes from the 20th until tonight will or should be online at least by tomorrow. But tomorrow is a really big day. All of the breaks are over and people are returning to work. And we actually took 10 days off essentially from working on anything. So now it's all time to play catch up. So anyway, stay tuned. We're still doing the shows every day, 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. Next weekend, we're going to have 2 new shows. I haven't decided on the time that they're going to kick off, but it's going to be the Continuity Report, which focuses on TV and movies, basically anything that can have a continuity report, which is a slate that documents where everything is, and Reality Hacker, which is going to focus on AR, VR, artificial intelligence, photo manipulation, audio manipulation, etc., etc. The motto for that entire show is "You won't know who to trust," which is actually a phrase that comes from sneakers, which implies that everything is so interconnected and everyone is lying and some people are telling the truth, but you won't be able to tell the difference. And that's what reality hacking is. You won't know what's real because it's so real. Think Westworld. Without all of the murder and well, everything else that modern Westworld is all about. Okay, well, that's it, folks. I hope to see everybody in 2024 showing up here in ohmTown. There's plenty of room. Come stay at the inn. I'm Mayor Watt. That's ohmTown.com, and up there is the visualizer for the artificial intelligence that keeps Mayor Watt out of trouble. I want to say bye to everybody.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Happy New Year, and we'll see you again on January 2nd.
Bye-bye. Maybe not. I pushed that button twice. Good night, everybody.